Terry Duda. I'm a Social Security disability attorney, and today we're going to be talking about how to qualify for Social Security disability benefits. There are basically 5 steps in the process. It's called a sequential evaluation process, and you must meet one of the steps along the way. The very first requirement that the Social Security Administration is going to be looking at is, are you working? And they came up with this definition of work. It's called substantial gainful activity. And what that boils down to is, are you making a certain amount of money? If you're working full-time, you're not going to be considered disabled. That would be considered substantial gainful activity. However, if you're working part-time and you're not making a whole lot of money, you could still be considered disabled under the Social Security Administration Act. The second step in this sequential evaluation process is your condition severe? And that is pretty simple to understand. If you go out and you break your leg and your doctor says, well, it's only going to take a couple months for that to heal, then you would not have a severe condition. A severe condition has to last at least 12 months. And it's got to be severe enough to keep you from working. So the severity requirement is going to knock you out of all full-time work, and you would if you do have a condition where it's going to last a full year, you could qualify for a closed period of benefits, even though it's not a permanent impairment. The next part of the sequential evaluation process has to do with your particular impairment and whether it meets a listing. A listing is the way Social Security organizes all of the possible disabilities you could have. So there are 14 listing of impairments. You're going to fall into one of those 14, whatever your condition is, whether it's a back problem, a heart problem, whether or not you have a mental disorder that keeps you from working. You are going to fall into one of those 14 listing of impairments. And meeting a listing is difficult, because what the Social Security Administration has done is made the criteria really strict. They're going to be looking at your doctor's records. They're going to be looking for specific clinical findings, test results, your doctor's notes about how it's affecting your ability to work, and then they make the determination whether or not you meet that listing. Now, most people are denied at the initial level because they don't meet a listing. So they have to appeal the decision, and they end up having to go before an administrative law judge. Now, the judge can consider the next 2 steps in the sequential evaluation process. They can consider whether or not you can go back to your old job. So even if you could do some work, if you can't go back to your old job and you are of a certain age and educational level, then you can be deemed disabled. So that's called the grid rule, and they look at how old you are, what type of work you did in the past, whether you can go back to that work, whether you can do some kind of lighter work or less stressful work. The administrative law judges are also going to consider step 5. Can you perform any work? If you're under age 50 and you can do some kind of sedentary work, sedentary unskilled work, then you're not going to be determined disabled. So when you are applying for disability benefits, your doctor, if you're under age 50, would have to unequivocally state or come up with a form or some kind of medical record that shows you cannot do a sit-down unskilled job. And the types of jobs that the judges are looking at you being able to perform are jobs like a parking lot attendant or a toll taker at a toll booth. If you can sit in a toll booth and take tolls 40 hours a week, then you're not going to be considered disabled. But let's say you have a back problem and your doctor says because of your back pain you have to lay down at least 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon, then you would be determined disabled because you cannot do that type of job. There's no place to lay down in a toll booth, so you would be considered disabled. So those are the 5 basic steps in the process of determining disability, and if you would like a consultation with me, feel free to contact me.